Figured it out. Now I've got us propped up so we fit in a little bit more.
I like it.
I'm hoping. So yeah, so we're not having to. I mean, as much as I love you,
Yes, love you too. But
we don't need to be shoulder to shoulder. So we're back again. I'm Lady Rose,
I'm Kaela. Nice to meet you.
and we're here for Tarot Delights. And as we are going in order, we are now on to the Lovers.
Ooh,
Lovers
an interesting card.
Yes, it is. And a lot of people, of course, when it shows up in a spread, they're like, oh, but I'm happily married. I don't need a new lover. It's like, it's not always meaning that new love. It can mean a new spark is coming into your life, for sure. It can be about love. But actually, the Lovers card is nicknamed the Choice card because it's about owning the choices that you've made, and it's about taking responsibility for them. And it also often means there's a choice or a decision you're going to have to make, and you need to slow down and pay attention.
Now that you're saying that, so I gave a reading to my mother-in-law like forever ago, and the Lovers came up. And now that like I'm thinking about that, because I was talking about the fact that it's a choice card, and she's like, but what about this? And I'm like, yeah, that's the popular perception of like, you know, the lovers and the situationships and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's not everything of what the card's about.
No, absolutely not.
And I find it really interesting that the thing that we had a reading about probably about a year ago ended up concluding recently.
Oh, okay.
So it was really interesting now that that popped into my brain. Okay, no. So because the Lovers was very much like the choice card of like whether to go one way or the other in a certain situation, and and then I was like, hey, be careful, like really look at the situation. And then she was all gung ho for it, husband not so much, and like it turned out I think the best of the way it could without going into more detail. But it's very much a choice card and very much a hey, you need to look at the situation you've got going on and figure out which way you want to go, and just kind of step back and be like, don't just jump in with 2 feet.
Yeah.
I think you really need to like kind of sit and stew on, like in a good way, just kind of sit and meditate or be still.
Yeah.
Like the priestess wants us to be.
Like we were taught before we came to the Lovers, right?
Yep.
Because often too, like I'll show the card, the typical traditional Lovers card. You've got Adam and Eve as sort of the story there, but it is also one of the angel cards because that's Archangel Raphael, because he's the archangel of the heart chakra. He's also the archangel of humanity itself, and he is a master binder. Ooh. So he's a master demon binder, but he's also a binder of love too, right? So it's very interesting that these are here. And you know, the Lovers card, like I said, is usually a choice card, but it's usually two choices that are very opposing to each other, right? It's not like, you know, you can have a little column A or a little column B. It's either you have A or B, and maybe they're two different choices, just like male, female are kind of, they're together but apart and separate. And then the mountains in behind are supposed to represent as a couple coming together, if you're in a partnership of some kind, of the mountains that every relationship has to overcome. It could also be there's a mountain you have to overcome or look over to see which side of the decision you want to make, kind of thing. So it's not always about love or lovers or sexual or whatever.
No, and it's also about like self-love too. Like I'm reading a lot of oh, there's a hidden meaning apparently too. Sorry, I was reading. But it's also about like find the magic within yourself and like love yourself first before you go out and love somebody else, which is a very important key feature I think that people kind of jump over sometimes.
Well, we've all met those people that in a relationship that you're like, why are you in this relationship? Why are you letting this person treat you? And I'm not talking about abusive relationships. I'm just, you know, sometimes one partner cows more than the other, you know, or whatever it might be. And it's like, why are you not loving yourself enough that this person isn't respecting you in this area or whatever it might be, right? Now, in my Gilded Tarot, the Lovers takes on a slightly different sort of energy because for this one, it's a lot of support, right?
Oh yes, because they're being lifted.
The warrior is lifting up And I always jokingly say this is Leia from Star Wars because she's in her gold bikini, and only women can fight wars in bikinis. Men need full armor, but
Yep.
women, no, we can do it practically naked. It's like, why are we always almost naked when we're fighting in these big wars?
Because that man was behind the camera.
That's right. It's
Or in some sort of decision-making role.
like you wouldn't see a man going into the battlefield with just a Speedo on.
Didn't some of the Greek guys fight?
They wrestled naked, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was a different time.
I'm thinking of Hollywood, though. Like, I was thinking of, like, Troy or something, and I was like, I'm pretty sure there wasn't a lot of clothes in that movie.
No, yeah, like the original Olympics kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it was done naked, but but it was,
Sidebar.
it's a Mediterranean climate, It's warm. Who wants to wear clothing?
Not like Canada, who's, like, cold 10 months of the year.
You won't see any downhill skiing naked.
Or bobsledding.
Or bobsledding, hockey.
Oh my gosh, no, that just, ow. Okay.
They just keep adding more layers
Yes.
as injuries happen,
I did have a hockey fact, but I'm not going to go there. That's going to create a whole other sidebar.
But yeah, the Lovers is always an interesting card when it does come up. Now for me, I have the inner child cards, the fairy tale ones, and they picked Hansel and Gretel.
Ooh, that's interesting.
And I love this fairy tale because the woman is kind of the hero of it. So Hansel and Gretel, as you know, are brother and sister, and it's the older sister that saves them from the wicked witch that has that beautiful candy house that they start eating, and so it's a representation of the male female coming together, but it's the female that's actually the hero, and she gets her brother out of the cage that the witch is going to eat because she pushes the witch into the oven, and then they ride across a river that the sister finds a white swan, and white swan is a representation for the goddess. Mm-hmm. So it's quite an interesting little fairy tale that they've put for the Lovers. And the Lovers is also the number 6, which is the number of the goddess Venus.
Yes. What I find really interesting is there's a lot of mention of Venus, but the astrological viewpoint in the Lovers card is Gemini.
Yes, yeah. Well, because of being the twins.
The twin energies and things like that.
Yeah. And the communication that's so needed with twins, with relationships like you and I,
Mm-hmm.
you and your partner, me and my partner kind of thing, right? And if you've ever met twins, especially when they're really young, I have some twin sets in my family, they have their own language. Like
totally.
My dad was a twin, and I remember my grandma talking that him and his twin would speak to each other in a different kind of language.
Yep.
But they totally knew what they were saying.
One of my brothers, so my brothers are twins, and I think one of them so it wasn't necessarily that one talked for the other one. It was one of them didn't get their driver's license because he's like, well, I'm hanging out with my brother every day anyway, and they drive, so why do I need to drive?
Right, yes. Yeah, twins have a special kind of...
They really do. It was
You know,
really
like-
awesome to watch.
Yeah. Because I remember my dad once in a while would say, I need to call Dave, there's something wrong.
Yep.
And it happened the other way too, Dave would call my dad, and they stayed very close, which I love, because I do have a set of twins in my family that don't get along very well,
Oh,
which
that's
is kind of
interesting.
weird, It's like, oh, that's so not twin-like, but, not every not every
No, and I mean,
set is going to be like that.
They're very much their own person, so I think it's very interesting. So, like, the typical story is that twins are close and they have their own thing going on, but then the other side of that is there is that other side of, like, maybe they don't get along or maybe something has happened, and so you have those, but there doesn't seem to be, like, it's either one or the other.
Yeah, that's true. From my experience.
Yes, from our experiences.
Yeah.
Correct us if you've had a different experience. Feel free to chime in the comments, and we'd love to kind of chat about that too.
Yeah.
'Cause
Now,
it's
I had Irish twins.
Yes.
Those are two siblings that are less than 18 months apart. So mine are 13 months minus a day apart.
Nice.
Yeah, so.
Josh is an Irish twin with his next
Oh, okay.
sister up.
So Catherine was 3 months old when I was in the doctor's office going, I think I'm pregnant again. So that was fun.
I can only imagine. I don't.
Made for a busy household, but
Yeah.
you know, once you're through the toilet training stage, it was pretty easy going after that.
And they always have someone to play with.
They do, and they're very close. So
Good.
yeah, you know, so hey, it's you know, siblings are a really good bond to have. You know, like when my parents, I'm the oldest of 7 and we've lost one of my brothers, but when my parents both died, now my brothers and sisters and I get together on the second weekend of September every year away at a cottage, no kids, no spouses or partners. And it's just us, like when we were little kids, and we just love it. We so look forward to it, and it's very bonding.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
That sounds like so much fun.
It is. It is so much fun. I would recommend it to anybody that has siblings to try and do stuff like that, because a lot of times you'll get together and, you know, you'll have your partner or your kids or whatever at Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff like that. But try to just make a special time when you just go away with your brother or sisters or whatever. And it's amazing the dynamic that starts to build and the bonding that starts to happen.
I'll have to try that.
Yeah.
I got a phone call out east. Both of my, well, I have one sibling out west, but most of my siblings are out east.
Oh, okay, okay. I'm lucky. Most of my siblings are close. I'm in Kingston, Ontario, Canada, so all of them are here except for one who's in Ottawa, which really is just a
That's like
hop, skip, and a jump.
Stone throw away.
Yeah,
That's not even
exactly.
too far.
Exactly. So it's not like, oh, she's out in BC or something, you know. But yeah, so the Lover's card is a card of decision and responsibility, which I really like, because it's about owning the choices you've made. It's called the choice card because there's a choice coming up, but it's also called the choice card because it's about owning that responsibility. And when you do that, or when you own the decisions that you've made and not blaming other outside forces or people on what's happening in your life, suddenly 6 comes into your life, and 6 is about smoothness and easiness sort of coming in. And it's amazing, like, even if you've made bad choices, when you own them, suddenly you have that power back again. It's sort of claiming your power.
Yeah, because I find depending, like, and you can make good choices or bad choices. It depends, and the dynamic shifts with each choice, right? So, like, you can sometimes unintentionally give away your power. But as soon as you claim accountability to whatever choice that is, you kind of take that power back. And then you're like, okay, I'm still in control. Regardless of how this shakes out, I know it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Where if you let that power, like, go further and further away from you, it doesn't give you that grounding. And then you're really kind of like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. And, like, your anxiety can get increase. And I'm saying this from personal experience. So I find that if you're accountable to your actions, say whatever it is, I made the decision to go left instead of right, and you know, stuff happened, then it's like, oh, okay, I made that decision today, and maybe I should go right instead of left. But you're going to be okay in your decision. Like, I don't know, what was it? Oh, I went to go back to school, and then COVID happened, and I don't think I finished the program. And it wasn't because of COVID. It was like the difficulty of the program. I was like, you know what? I'm not a numbers person. Why did I think this was going to be? Because I was kind of a little deluded in the sense that I'm like, oh yeah, it'll be fine. I've done enough numbers and math classes and stuff. It was the bookkeeping class. So it was funny. Catherine mentioned bookkeeping today.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you got a better brain than me, girl. With everything. So I feel like, and then I was okay with letting that go, as much as like, oh my gosh, I'm a failure. But I'm like, it's okay. That's not my jam, and I'm okay with that. So as soon as I took that power back of like released in whatever,
And you
people,
could have at that point so easily blamed COVID.
Yeah.
And said, oh, it was COVID time, so that's why. But instead you took it back.
Yeah, I was like, no, this was, it could have been COVID added stressors, but it wasn't just COVID in the sense of why I didn't complete the program. I realized the delivery and what it was, because it was online, and I chose that before COVID started.
Oh, okay.
I realized in and of myself, I'm not an online learner.
Right.
I need the accountability of being in class.
Oh, okay.
Of like, okay, if you need to read like chapter 3 for lesson 4, then I need that accountability of like, okay, I physically have to be somewhere for lesson 4. Then I know before I get there, I need to read lesson 3.
Right.
And if I'm in my own environment at home, I'll be like, oh, whatever, I'll do it later. Like there isn't that same kind of urgency.
Yeah.
So, and I know that now about myself. So then I was able to take that back and be like, it's okay, I can let this go. Where before I would have totally eat me up forever.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny that you say that because I had a client in yesterday who's going to be going back to school in September.
Oh, really? Okay.
And she said that it's like she's going for RMT, so she's worried about the science part of it because she
Okay.
said, I was never good at science in class, and I don't know if I'm a science kind of person. And I kind of pointed, and she said she's taken a couple runs at a couple other things, and she's failed out. And I said, well, don't look at it as a failure. It's just it wasn't your time to learn that. And I also said, like, the RMT, like, as I took beauty school, right? I always jokingly said that I couldn't afford medical school, so I went to beauty school instead.
There's a lot of math in beauty school.
There is, and there's a lot of anatomy because you have to know the anatomy. And I said it's probably very similar to RMT, which is registered massage therapy, if you don't know what that means. And I said, you're really just putting the body in the mind spirit body equation. And she's like, oh, I never thought of it that way. And because she's a very spiritual person. And I said, you've got layers that you can add to that physical part of it. And I said, now is your time to learn that because now you're ready. And you're not doing like string theory when you go into RMT. You're learning parts of the body.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. And you're learning how to manipulate it. Like, if there's a knot here, press there. And because I always say RMTs to me seem like magicians because I go for massage on a regular. And if I have a knot or something, he'll just press the right spot. I'm like, oh my God, I love you. It's like.
Well, because like there's knowledge base, right? So
Yeah.
it's like they've spent time and crafted and like spent time and learned their craft and there's ways of learning things. So it's like one of my math teachers in high school was like, as long as you get, so like point A to point B is one way to get there, very linear. But if you go from point A to point D to point F to point J and then to point B, you still got there. You just took a different route.
Unfortunately, math teachers also want to see your work.
Yes.
Which I did not like. I would get the answer, but I didn't know how I got there.
See, I had to show my work because I was like, wait a minute. If I mess up on step 2, then I'm not going to get the right answer at step 16. So it's like I need to show my work in order
My
to figure
math
out.
tests were constantly, Rhonda, please show your work. I'm like, fuck off.
But
It's two, just get it.
But with the RMT, I feel like if you have somewhere that your strength isn't there, like say math or science or whatever, if it's encompassed in something that you're really passionate about, so if it encompasses like spiritual practices and like you're just adding another layer in order to something you already do, it's gonna seem easier.
Oh, 100%. Like when I was telling this client that I dropped science like a hot potato in high school because I couldn't stand it. I was like, nope, don't want to do it. Blah, blah, blah. Now as an adult, I'm way more interested in it. But when I went to beauty school, as I call it, we did do a lot of anatomy, but I ate it up like a sponge, right? Because we weren't doing cellular stuff. It was very concrete kind of science, I guess you could say.
But it's also useful to you. Like you
very
knew,
useful.
You knew that you could use this outside.
Yeah.
And I think, and I work in the lower grades of education, like primary, junior type thing. And I feel like some of the kids just can't conceptualize, and that's totally them. Like they're not at an age where they can conceptualize using some of the skills we're teaching them. And I think that's a big barrier in getting that understanding across. Because if I can see, like for me personally, if I can see where I'm going to use this, I'm game. Let's go.
Yeah.
I know this is going to be useful.
That does make a difference.
But because some of the foundation and building blocks, you can't see where it's going to piece together.
Well, like I said earlier this morning, when have you ever used a cosine in real life?
Yeah.
Never.
Outside of college, I needed some sort of quadratic or like computated formula for my statistics and my thesis. Outside of that, I haven't touched
I'm
it.
never grocery shopping going, I wonder what x squared plus y squared really is.
But if you were, no, I can't even imagine doing that with like cake baking or something, because then it would just
you
be
need
like,
your fractions when you're baking and cooking. So that was very applicable.
oh my gosh, I love it.
But outside of that, I have never used a calculus or algebra equation in my life.
I love it. We will go deeper into that in our other podcast.
There you go.
Yeah.
Math and why you don't need it. No, I'm just kidding.
Depends on your career choices, though, right?
Absolutely.
I'm sure the astrophysicists use it all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, they should tell that to us in high school. If you're going to be an astrophysicist, you need this course.
Yep.
If you're not, just go do something else.
Well, I know there's prerequisites for things, and I get that. And I mean, my brain almost exploded when they're like, we're going to de-stream things. And I'm like, pardon? Like and don't get me wrong, I understand why they're doing it. And once I got the rationale, again, tell me why you're doing something makes 100% difference for me.
Yeah.
But it's like, how is this going to work? No. But I mean, the Lovers is very much a choice card and very much a, like, you have to love yourself first. And I really like how... So I don't know.
And it's also about being able to come together with others and learning to play with
play
others.
nicely.
Yeah, play nicely, being kind, even if they're opposing, because it's usually a man and a woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about the gender, it's about the energy.
Yes, I was just going to say, the energies are can be in each of us, right?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. So it's about bringing those opposing energies together and learning to meld them and work with them. And, and by doing that within yourself, like you were just saying, then you're able to come from a place of strength and you're able to be kinder to your fellow human being and you're able to be more understanding and empathic and sympathetic to their way. You start to see the gray, basically.
Yep.
Right? And it's like when you're young, we were talking about this in other podcasts, you are very black and white. Like, this person needs to die because they did this thing, and this person should be rewarded because they did good, and it's like...
Well, I find it really interesting that's how... but, like, things complicate. So it's like, again, to go back to science, when you...
science.
learn... Is it the atom formula or the, like... The periodic formulas.
Oh, yes.
So it's
That's
like you
part of the reason
learn
I
one
dropped
way
science.
to understand it. And then
Yeah.
they're like, actually scrap that. You actually have to do it this way. And you're like, what? Why did we spend a year learning it the other way?
Yeah.
But there's
yeah.
like logic behind it because then it prepares your brain. So I
Right.
feel like a lot of kids in school, the foundational level of things, they're like, I don't get where this is going to fit in. But then they have to get there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like there are multiple levels to the Lovers card. And I feel like when you mesh energies in the best way possible, like if you're meshing energies and they're just not working, don't force it. Like I'm not here to be like, you should be.
No, but it's always been given as a challenge for you to try and work, because we all have met that person who's like really hard to work with, or she's just so annoying, or he's a total jerk all the time, right? And we pick them. Especially when it's a partner, right? Like these people
that's interesting.
will pick, we'll
Yep.
get married or whatever, and
Yep.
then they'll just bitch and bitch and bitch. It's like,
And it's like, why'd you pick them?
yeah, you picked them, right? And that's part of taking responsibility for your choices.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny that you use the words "you picked them" because I'm not always reminded of this. So it's never in my like immediate. Oh, okay, yeah, but like soul contracts. You not only picked them to marry them, you picked them before you got here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you might have a soul contract with that person.
Yeah.
And there might be something you are both supposed to be working out. And like I've said before, you can fail a life. And you pass on, as we all do, and you go to the other side and they go, by the way, this contract here that you signed saying you were going to work it out with this person, you didn't. So next life you go to, you got to be with them again. And,
I like the idea of like rotating around with different souls, right?
Yes.
So it's like you kind of have your soul family and you end up finding through your life, you find the people that are supposed to be around you. And I really like that. And I think it's really interesting that the Lovers card shows up as a choice card, but also like finding yourself, love yourself first, and then kind of really reach out to your soul family and like learn what you're supposed to learn from them. And like there's a whole other dive I could probably do on this. Like,
oh yeah,
yeah,
100%. But people are so like, people seem to think other people are disposable. Like one of my pet peeves on Facebook, it hasn't happened recently, but I'm clearing out my friends list
Oh,
right?
yes, because if you can still see this, you've passed, like, the test.
Like, first of all, the drama of, oh, you're still with me. Nah. Or if you want to be with me, say something. It's like, shut up, right? And it's like, it's a pet peeve of mine because it sounds like you're clearing dresses out of your closet, right? And it's like, people aren't just throwaway clothes.
I hope you value people a little more than you value your clothes.
Yeah. I mean, if someone does something offensive or is like creepy or whatever, I get it, because like I get friend requests from guys that are always oil rig captains, or they fly planes and they're always divorced,
retired,
or widowed.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, it's like, okay, I don't need those friend requests. But at the same time, like, I usually say yes until you prove otherwise. I always jokingly say. So if you're posting up, you know, stuff that's like horrific, I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm going to delete you as a friend.
Yeah.
But I don't go through my friends list and go, yeah, you're not worth it. You're not, like, you made the cut, as they say.
Well, I found it interesting. Like, I had through like a random pit of events, like, I lost my Facebook. And so I'm randomly finding people again. But the people that haven't reached it, and it's no fault of your own, you grow and you have different people and you have different priorities. And now I'm like, oh, I haven't talked to the person in like 6 years. Oh, I hope they're doing okay. But I don't like search them up and go, oh, let's refriend them. Like, obviously, like, the universe decided to be like, hey, you need to let go of some things.
Right.
And I was like, okay. And so I don't, like, if I think of someone, great, and I hope they're doing well, but I don't, like, go cause drama and be like, oh, I wonder what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because, like, it's just, that's not worth it.
Yeah. And I'm not usually too upset, like, if I notice someone's not on my friends list anymore because they've unfriended me. I'm like, oh, okay, well, fine.
Yeah.
I didn't make the cut that time.
I don't think that's happened in a while. So I think because, like,
I don't think people are doing it as much anymore.
No, it's kind of more in the background of like, oh, I just haven't talked to this person in forever.
It was a trending thing for a while. Yeah, and it kind of bugged me because it's like, again, you're not throwing out underwear, you know. These are actual souls.
Value your friends.
And sometimes when you notice someone's gone, you're kind of like, oh, did I do something or whatever, right? So you don't always know how it's going to affect your life, or not your life, but that person's life, if they do notice that you've cut them, right? But again, it's like, I mean, you know, you don't have to be bosom buddies with every person on Facebook, obviously, or your social media. But that's what the Lover's Card is about, is taking that responsibility of the choices you've made and then working with those people that are in your life, annoying or otherwise, and especially the annoying ones, because they're probably there for a reason, right?
Whether they're there to teach you something or teach you something about yourself.
Yes, exactly. Because the reason we're usually annoyed with someone is because they have a quality that we don't like about ourselves, right? And it's like, oh, I've had to sit with that so many times where I'm like, I don't like that person. Why not? Oh, because I'm kind of like that in that way, you know?
Yeah.
Like, people that bulldozer, I tend to knee-jerk not like, because I have a bulldozer type personality, and I know that, or at least I've learned that. I didn't realize it when I was younger.
But I feel like, again, it's like that maturity thing, though, right? Like, you are taught the things on a foundational level and don't always get why you're being taught that. But then once you gain a little bit more wisdom and a little bit more time, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And oh, is that why I do that? Okay, maybe I need to look at that.
Or that's why those people reacted that way.
Yes, because I remember there's been some times I've had some reactions and I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah. And they're like, actually, this is how it came across. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Because that was not my intention.
Yeah.
But sometimes what your brain perceives as a good reaction or like an okay reaction, someone else may not take that way.
Yeah.
And not like a blown out of proportion, how dare you offend me, but just in like just be careful how you come across to things and be more aware. I'm constantly saying that to the kids, and it's normally like, be more aware, there's a pole right there. Yeah. So it's not like about your emotional intelligence, it's more like, I don't want you to
obstacle intelligence.
But then every time I say that, I'm like, okay, am I being more aware? So sometimes I check in with myself, but mine's more about emotional intelligence and
right,
you know.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you say that, because one of the most like people ask me about doing readings for yourself all the time.
Okay.
Right? And I often discourage it because, you know, like the old adage, we just, as tarot readers, will flip the cards until we get the one we want. Oh, the world again. I'm going to be successful and awesome. Right? And all that kind of, the tower, that can't possibly be right. But one of the readings, I was talking to someone the other day about self readings, and I said two things. One, it's really much better to meditate with your cards as opposed to read your cards. Two, actually, there's three things. Two, if you're going to pull a card a day, pull it at the end of your day and see if that card happened. As
that's
opposed
interesting.
to at the beginning and having it influence you. Like it's going to be a tower day or whatever. Have the tower day, pull the card at the end. Oh, yeah, it was a tower day, you know, because this happened and that happened. Or, yeah, it was a world day or whatever.
Interesting.
Because then you're not being influenced
By the card.
by the cards, right? You're still making your own decisions. But the other reading that's a really kind of cool reading is pull 2 or 3 cards, and how does the world see me,
Ooh.
right?
That's interesting because that's more self-reflective, right?
Yeah.
So you're looking into yourself and you're like, okay, how does the world see me? I really like that one.
Yeah, that's a very powerful self-reading to do, because then you have to kind of, again, take responsibility and go, oh, you know, I the magician, I'm either a really good teacher, I'm deceitful in some way. And you'll know, because you know inside what you really
Yeah,
have
and then
been
you gotta
like.
kind of sit with those and be like,
Or
okay.
people see you as deceitful or whatever it might be, right?
And it's like you may not want that reaction or that like how people see you. And then if that's what comes up, maybe you need to kind of sit with it and be like, hey, that wasn't my intention.
Yeah.
So how do I
Change that.
how do I change that so that I can live how I feel authentically and present myself to other people the same way?
Yeah.
No, that's really good. Really, really good.
Yeah, I've done that reading for myself a few times, and I'm not always happy with the cards that show up.
No,
But it makes me aware of things.
yeah.
You know, sometimes, you know, a good card shows up, oh yeah, I am amazing in this, blah, 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 look at me. But then it's like, oh yeah, well, this guy,
Well, also too, and I think cards are interesting. So like I will when it comes to big decisions, I like pulling cards, but I don't depend on them.
Right.
So like I almost make the decision and then I go, okay, let's see what the cards say.
Right.
And unless
yeah.
the cards are blaringly like, do not do this.
Yes.
And I'll go, okay, why?
Sometimes I wish they had a tarot card that said, no, stop.
Like that reminds me of the meme. It's like, should I go back to my toxic ex? And the cards are literally
Like spelled out with no.
no, yeah, the whole deck is like a big N-O. Oh my gosh. And I find it really interesting because like some people will depend. They're like, oh, what did the cards say? And like I can't make a decision without them. But it's like I just kind of use it as a double check of like I know what I want already because like as I'm laying them out, I already know what I want. It's like a pendulum.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
it's like, so it's a way for me to double check my internal compass. And regardless of what the cards say, I'm going to do, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody.
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
going to do what I had decided.
But if they say, like, if it's glaringly, you know, that probably isn't the right path, that makes you stop and think for a minute and pause.
And be like, hey, maybe this isn't the right time.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of start to discern whether or not it is the right time
Yeah.
or the right situation. And sometimes
Or maybe there's more information you need to know.
yeah,
or
or maybe it's like you're supposed to do this, but like 5 years down the road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And sometimes you still do the thing, even though the cards say it's
Yeah.
not the best time, and you go, yeah, the cards were right.
Yeah. They have a tendency to tell you what you need to know.
Yeah, and it's not because they have any magical ability. It's what they're doing is feeding off that biofeedback
Yep.
that we sometimes don't listen to ourselves.
No, and that's it. Like I to throw this so like kind of a little bit out of the tarot card realm, I don't have kids myself, so I don't feel like I have like a maternal instinct per se, but I look after children.
Yeah.
And so like it took me a long time to trust my gut when it came to kids because I was like
Okay.
so there was like my head talking about like what I've been taught and like you know how when if there's like an emergency you kind of go into like autopilot.
Yeah, yeah.
Um
Some people go really good and calm, and other people panic. So you're either in one.
Yeah,
camp
you're one
or-
of two camps. So I'm good in a crisis and I will freak out later.
Right.
Just because I know other people are like, okay, you can't help yourself out of this. I need to be the calm one to get you out of this, get us both out of this, and then I'll freak out later.
Yeah.
But in like, even in non-emergency situations, I'd be like, I need to like check that over there. And sometimes I wouldn't. I'd be like, oh, maybe it's just off. Maybe I'm just being crazy or whatever. And it'd always be like, no, I should have done that.
Right.
So now I'm very attuned, especially when it comes to other people.
Oh, good.
I'm like studying their faces and I'm like, oh, you're off today. And like, how is that going to affect our day? And like, let's not do too much. Let's kind of take a chill day. And
Yeah.
so I'm kind of building that mother's intuition without having children. And it took me a long time to trust it because for the longest time I thought it was my anxiety. And you know how your anxiety is like, you're going to die. You're not actually going to die. So for the longest time I dismissed a lot of it.
Right.
But then I really should be listening to it.
Yeah.
So it like, and I feel like the
and
card,
it's learning to turn off that monkey mind that says you're gonna die.
Yeah.
Right. And
because you're not actually going to die.
No.
We're not
Most
running-
of the time, you're not
Yeah.
actually gonna die.
There are the odd like 1.100% chance.
Yeah. If you jump out of an airplane, your parachute doesn't go out. Then let the monkey mind scream at you all you like.
Yeah. But
You're gonna die as you fall.
But I think it really is, and then pull that intuition when you're pulling cards and see how they show up and which cards are around them. Because I think I've said this before. Regardless of if there's one card that you're focusing on, the cards around them have a story with it.
Absolutely.
So depending on what that cards around them says and that story is developing, could change the meaning of the card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. You can have the same card in 6 readings in a row, and it means something different in each reading, depending on the person and depending on the cards around it. Absolutely.
So it's, you gotta, as much as you're listening to the card and that biofeedback is happening, you're also having that biofeedback because that person is sitting next to you and their auras, energy centers are feeding off of yours, and you can kind of tune into that, which is a really interesting.
Well, yeah, like you've taken my tarot course.
Yep.
So when I teach tarot, one of the first things I talk about is watch what your client does. Because we can lie. We're able to lie, but our bodies are incapable of it. So one of the things I tell you to watch out for is when you flip a card, does the client lean backwards because they're want to pull away from it, or are they leaning in
To be like, ooh, what's next?
do their eyes widen because they're excited, that sort of thing. So watch what your client does, because their body is going to tell you the truth, first of all, and going to tell you way more than what they're even going to say as well, right? Like I always encourage clients, the more you put into a reading, the more you'll get out of it.
And that's totally true.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've read
100%.
people cold and they're like, okay.
Oh,
what
they'll
is it?
sit there and be like,
Yeah.
And I'll. The first thing I always say is, I'm not a parlor trick.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting, and it's 100% true. You put in what you put in is what you get out of it. So you can, even one card draws can be very telling.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And it's weird how people will react to different cards. And I often, like, if I'm wanting to know more or add another layer, I'll often ask a client which card caught your eye and what part of that card caught your eye. And one client one time, I can't remember which deck it was, she noticed the bunny in the corner.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I'm like, oh, okay. And she wanted to get pregnant. So for whatever, and we all know what bunnies do, right? So, and she ended up getting pregnant because it was a bit of a, am I ever going to get pregnant kind of thing, right? And it was sort of a touchy subject because I know a lot of readers won't do fertility type readings or.
Well, it's a touchy subject, and I feel like you're right. Like if you're saying, yeah, you're going to get pregnant, and then it never happens. Like, the
then
client's going to be very upset.
Yeah, because as a reader, you're used as a scapegoat if things don't go as planned.
Yep.
And I often say, we're looking at potential future, not written in stone future. And tarot doesn't always give you exact answers. It's just more of this will probably happen based on where you are today.
Yep.
Right? So I often use the analogy of the alcoholic, the guy that goes to the bar 5 nights a week and he comes in and asks, am I going to become an alcoholic? Well, the chances are probably big, you know, like.
Well, it's like if people drive for a living, their chances go up about going into potential accidents on the road.
Right.
Because you're
yeah.
spending more time on the road.
And that's like that stupid statistic that says more accidents happen closer to home. It's like, yeah, because you're always leaving home and coming home.
Yeah.
So of course more accidents happen closer to home. It's like,
Well, people like that's a whole okay. We're not going to touch that. 'Cause it's a whole other kettle of fish, and I'll just go on a rant about traffic.
oh, okay, yeah, we need any
No.
road rage right now. Because we do live in Kingston, which is the third most dangerous city to drive in Canada.
I believe that.
And yes.
Just based on what I've seen this morning.
Yeah, me too.
I get that it's a Friday, and it's a Friday in the summer, and I know there's always more traffic because people are like, hey, I'm taking Friday off. We're going to go to the cottage. So there's more cars on the road. There's more this, there's more that. And I see it. Half of me is like, can I just work my jobs that allow me not to be on the road when traffic happens?
And I know everybody says, oh, my town has stupid drivers too. It's like, no, Kingston has...
We're really special.
Yeah, we're very special. Like it said, stop signs in Kingston are just a suggestion.
Yup. I watched it twice this morning.
And I've seen it twice in the last 2 weeks that even red lights are just a suggestion, apparently.
That's not cool.
It's like, oh dear.
Well, it's like I feel like yellow lights are speed up and go through regardless
Yes.
of how far away you are.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yep. And now that we've got those click down walking things, I still got 2 seconds.
But then you got to remember, most of those click down walking things, like you can have like 5 to 10 seconds, but like also too, there are red light cameras more like
Yeah, more
They
and
don't
more.
hide them,
No,
but like
we got tons of them in Kingston for a reason.
Yup. It's true.
There's one out here in this intersection here, and at night you can see the camera go off when it clicks.
Oh, can you?
And at night you see click, 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 and it's like, oh god.
Yeah, no, I just assume, and also too, I read recently they've decreased the kilometer range, or like, so from 40 to 30 or 50 to 40.
Oh, because they increased it on the 401. It's now 110 an hour that you can do. They put all brand new signs up.
Oh, good to know. I don't do the 401 if I can help it, just because. Why tempt fate? But like, yeah, no, and it's like the comment section is just people like infuriating, and I'm like, you know what? If it's around schools, the kids need to get to school safely.
Yeah.
I used to work in a school in the morning, and I used to bring a book, and I never left. So like, we would get done when the bell rang, but there was always still so much traffic that I'd get to my car, I'd read a chapter, and I'm like, okay, all the kids are in safely inside, then I'd leave. Because I'm just like, it's not worth potentially hitting a kid.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
10 minutes out of my day ain't gonna kill me.
Yeah. Or anybody else. So,
Nope.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just, it was, to me, it was worth the peace of mind to know that I wasn't gonna
Plus,
hit
you
a
got
kid.
another chapter done in your book. So
Yeah,
there you go.
exactly. It was a great book. And I don't make time to read enough.
Oh, yeah.
So I find it interesting. So you were talking about the heart chakra in the Lover's card. And this one, so the Chakra Healing Tarot, I almost said Healing Chakra Tarot, has the solar plexus,
Let's see.
yellow,
Yep, that's solar plexus.
and third eye.
Oh,
Third
okay.
eye? It's the purple one.
Yeah, that's third eye.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because the third eye is kind of like the seat of the soul, but it's also where your brain is, right? And solar plexus in your brain. They're getting better and better. That looked like it was a local call. I can guarantee you it wasn't.
Nope.
But
That could be a whole other podcast.
yeah, right. But they've proven there's gray matter in the solar plexus stomach gut area.
Well, because there's a heart. Your
And-
heart is connected down in your here too, right? Like,
I'm not sure, but I know it's like the gray matter in your gut is connected through the vagus nerve in your spine up to your
oh, interesting.
brain.
Yeah.
That's why you get that gut reaction when you walk into a place and you're like, oh, I don't feel right, or oh, this is great, you
Yeah.
know, kind of thing. So it is, you know, like you said, you're learning to listen to that with the kids. So it's interesting that the chakra one, because the obvious chakra is the heart chakra.
Yeah.
With the lovers, but it's about the decisions you're making and connecting your energy with your logic and using both, because again, the lovers is about taking two opposing things, melding them together and using them both to make your decisions and take responsibility and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I feel like, and we do talk a lot about, like, are you making decisions with your head or your heart? And there's different motivations with those decisions, and how you make them are very different. So I like what you were saying with melding your head and your kind of your sacral.
Yep.
Okay.
No, solar plexus.
Solar plexus. See?
Sorry.
See, this is why I check.
Yes. I'm
because
glad you did, because I was just going to go along in the ride for you.
So with your solar plexus, so you're kind of in that intuition spot, and then your head, you're kind of like logically thinking. So like meshing those together, and again, opposing energies, you're gonna get a more well-rounded decision if you incorporate both rather than using one over the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like if you use one over the other, regardless of which way you go, you're going to get blindsided by something you're not thinking about. But if you integrate the energies together, you'll get a more
Well, you're coming from a place of center,
Yep.
place of strength, right? Because between the third eye and the solar plexus is the throat and the heart chakra. So it is incorporating it all together, because really the chakras need to work together no matter what. Because if one is plugged, it plugs the other ones, right?
It's like the Christmas light situation. If one is gone, the entire strand doesn't work.
Exactly.
Sorry.
And you gotta find that damn one bulb that is out.
You're like, which one is it? At least there's only 7.
Yeah.
With the chakras, not a whole line.
It's not like on Christmas Vacation where it's there's a little knot there, Russ. Oh my goodness, yes, yeah, absolutely. So what other cards do we have here for the lovers?
I just closed that. I didn't mean to do that. So I really like this one. It's the This Might Hurt Tarot by Isabel Rothman, and it's kind of my Rider-Waite Smith clone, but it's my ride or die. I love this deck. And they so there's like clouds instead of mountains, and you can see there's like both trees, and so there's very mirrored images, and we still have Raphael.
Is there only one person on there? Oh,
No,
no,
there's
there's
2.
two. Okay.
They're in an embrace.
Okay.
And we still have Raphael up top.
Nice.
Raphael?
Yep.
Okay.
Archangel Raphael.
Just want to make sure.
Nope, you got it right.
Sometimes I mix my angels up. They're not I'm not as in tune with them as I probably should be. I really like the forest lovers because they kind of have an example of the hand fasting ceremony.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah.
again, and there's trees, and that's just kind of where
And what's cool about the Celtic system of marriage is they were married for a year plus a day, and then they would decide if they wanted to stay with that partner.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Or move on.
I feel like...
And it wasn't a divorce. It was just like, we've had our year. We've had fun. They might choose, we want to stay together. They might choose, no, I want to go apart and stuff like that. So it's interesting because, like, I think that's kind of cool because you have to recommit almost every year, right? I mean, most people will mark their anniversary, go out for dinner, but then in the meantime, they've grown to hate each other or whatever, right? So
hopefully not. Like if
I gotta buy the bitch a steak dinner.
If you've if you've consciously made a decision to spend the most amount of your time with one individual, I would hope that you don't hate them, and if you do, maybe there would be some logic and time apart.
Yeah. Oh, but not every marriage is perfect, and sometimes you're there for the convenience because it's the devil,
Yep. And then this is another Rider-Waite Smith.
Okay.
This is the Witch's Garden Tarot. So like, I love the fact that it's is it linen finish? Yes. So I'm talking about cardstock, and some people get really snobby about their cardstock.
Oh, linen finish.
Yeah, you feel that?
Oh, that's very nice. It's like Egyptian cotton.
Yes. So I am not an expert on cardstock. I could send you videos. Like if someone's like, "Oh, I want to learn about cardstock," I have some people that you could watch videos for hours, and they are amazing experts. I am not one of them, but I really like the feel and the way these shuffle.
Nice.
And again, trees, nature. That's kind of my vibe.
Yeah.
And
very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, anything else about the lovers? I think we've covered most of it.
Yeah, I think we really have.
Yeah, yeah. So it's about finding balance, taking responsibility for your choices, learning to unconditionally love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I was just reading, I'm in a series by Sarah J. Maas,
Oh, are you reading Akatar, like that series?
the fairy one.
Yes.
And
It's very
there was
popular.
a mirror that someone had to look into, and the mirror shows who you really are, warts and all. And a lot of times it drives people insane or makes them want to die or whatever. And she managed to look at it, and she loves herself as she is. And I'm like, oh, we should have a real mirror like that and teach people how to love themselves, because nobody's perfect.
No, and I feel like that's a lesson that even if you have the most amazing upbringing with zero trauma, I feel like that's a lesson everyone still needs to learn.
Absolutely, because
And-
even with no trauma, like we have coping things that we do when we go through trauma, and it makes us stronger or weaker depending on how we've handled it. But we still, like, even those that haven't suffered, let's say, everybody wants to say they've suffered, right? It's
Yep.
like, okay, yes, your childhood was terrible, blah blah blah, but at some point we have to stop blaming those things for why we
Yeah,
are
and take
who we
accountability.
are.
Again, taking accountability and kind of sitting with your decisions and or situations that have happened. And I'm not saying they've all been good situations.
No.
Like, I, don't wish
Because we've all
anything
been, horrible people. Maybe you were mean to someone. Maybe you complain a lot. Maybe you lie for no reason, right?
Coping skill.
And yeah, it can be a coping mechanism. Because I know as a kid, I would do that. And when I panic, sometimes I'll go into that lying mode. And I've had to sit with
Yeah.
it and go, because to me, when someone speaks their truth unabashedly, I am in awe of them for that, because I have not been able to do that until recently. And I still get knocked for it, but I'm okay. Like, I don't hide from it. But yeah, like, it's learning to love yourself, even the parts you don't like. And that can come from any background. You don't have to have gone through horrific things in order to
I think that was
have those traits that you don't like.
like during school, that was one of my biggest like kind of aha moments, is that everybody has something that they don't like, and how they handle it really shows you who they are as a person. And like, it could be something as simple as one thing, or as like traumatic as the most traumatic thing ever. Again, I'm not going to go specifics because everyone's situations are different. But that really kind of shows the measure of the person to me, that if, regardless of what this situation is, if they can kind of either take accountability or come to terms, not that that's easy to do, that kind of shows that character of that person, and like, how are they able to keep going and things like that. And like, not in like a how are they able to keep going, because we all just keep going.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we all don't really have much of a choice.
Yeah.
So, but I find it really interesting in school. Like, there's different skills you can learn or not learn, and that really either sets you up for success or it doesn't. And I'm not saying traditional school, like this could be School of Hard Knocks or academics, doesn't matter. You can still learn equally valid
And
skills.
you can learn from your mistakes too,
Yep.
right? Like, okay, so I lied in this situation because I was panicked. As long as you bring awareness to it and sit with it and go, why did I do this? Because as a kid, I would get slapped if I told the truth. So that's why I started to lie.
that self-preservation.
That self-preservation. But I don't have to work, like, this person is not going to slap me. Like, if you question me on something and I lied to you,
I'm not going to come up and, yeah.
it's not like you're going to be, Rhonda, slap me.
But we do have those innate, like, for example, I work in a school. And growing up, the worst thing you could do is be sent to the principal's office.
Right, yes.
But now the principal's my boss. So when she's like, oh, hey, swing by my office, I need to chat about something, I'm like, oh, God, what happened?
Yeah.
So innately, my brain is like, what did you do? But
Yes.
it's nothing to do with that. She'd be like, oh, I'm making you change to your schedule. I need you to go down this hallway instead of this hallway. And that's it. Meanwhile, my brain's like, oh God. You know, like
Right,
you
because
need,
you've trained your brain to react in that
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
And now you have to sit with it and teach it how to respond. You know, it's a small thing, but when you're able to train yourself, like let's say I get panicky because we all like principal's office, ooh,
Yeah.
you know. So if I had like I do the same thing when I've worked for bosses. That's why I don't work for bosses anymore. But you know, I have to train my body and my brain to respond in an adult way. And then you go into your boss in a place of strength as opposed to a place of weakness.
you're like, hey man, what's up?
Yeah,
What
right?
can I do for you?
Instead of, hi,
Yeah.
what do you need from me? Oh my God, I'm terrified.
Yeah.
You know?
And you'll learn, like, the experiences. So it took me a couple of times, I think, before I was like, oh, we're just having a chat.
Right, yeah.
This is just a, you know, and they're fantastic people, and they try
Of
and
course,
connect with
yeah.
with their staff as much as their students, and like they're juggling 50 million things. So my brain has learned, like, it's okay.
Because I grew up in the days of the strap.
Oh yeah, see, I didn't even have that.
Yeah, so yeah, that was a terrifying thing. I actually had a boy from school. He took the strap for me. I know. I did the bad thing.
And he was like, no, it was me.
Yes.
Oh, that's so, like,
Yes.
on one hand sweet, and on the other hand, oh my goodness.
I know. So thank you. His name was Willie.
Oh.
And he took the strap for me because I was terrified. I was just like, oh my God.
That'd be a whole new level of, like, don't get me wrong, I had a healthy dose of fear that kids nowadays don't seem to have.
Right?
Like, but I had a good fear of authority, and not for any bad reason, just in like, okay, I'm supposed to listen to you.
Yeah, right?
No.
Yeah, my parents were pretty upset because the school did eventually find out.
Yeah.
And I got a stern talking to from the principal because Willie, unfortunately, was a guy that the teachers often knew was going to do bad things. So it wasn't like, oh, well, you know, he never does anything bad. They
No.
kind of expected it.
They were like,
so
oh, it was you. Okay.
I feel bad, but yeah, he did take the strap for me.
Interesting.
So he had a good soul down deep, you know.
All right.
All right, so I guess that's it about the lovers. So thank you for being here. I think we were here a fair amount of time.
Ooh, that's
so-
exciting.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a longer one, but the lovers do have 2 people on it and an angel. So we had more to talk about, I guess.
For sure. And like the energies and how they interact and things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So if the lovers come up in a tarot card reading, know that there's some things going on, and you can interpret accordingly.
Hopefully this adds another layer to your own tarot readings. Thank you so much for being here. Please subscribe to our channel and ring the little bell so that you know when another Tarot Delights is coming up. And check us out on Facebook and on Instagram. I am technically on TikTok under Goddess Garage. I'm not there that often though.
We're working on that.
Yeah. All right. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Oops. Oh my goodness. This is quite a thing. There we go.